Hey, Chief Fruity here. This is the behind the scenes for Trance, and this is track 4 from Wreckage. This is kind of a chill out electro track. So I'll show you guys how I made this, so let's go into it. So this is the project of Trance, and as you can see, there's only 13 audio tracks in the entire song. This is one of the simplest songs in Wreckage, so I'm just gonna go right into the pads I have here. So these are what's playing from the beginning of Trance. I had these pads made in a citrus. So how these pads were made was I used only a couple of these operators. I did not use all of them. So operator 1 is the baseline operator, and the only changes I did here was by default it's at 2.0 for the frequency, so I put it down to 1. To get a little bit of a lower tone, so it's not like this, not like this. Just made it sound a little bit more natural. And then operator 2, I did the same thing. Operator 3, I did the same thing here, and I put it on with these waveforms to get it a little more of a rounder sine wave. And then for 4, I have the same wave up here with 4.0, and then 5, the same wave again, but I put it onto 1.0 Hz. Normally those are 0, but I did 1.0 Hz for here, and then 6 for the frequency, and then back to 2. So 6, I didn't mess with anything on operator 6, just 1 through 5. And then I have 2 going straight to the output, 3 is going through 4, which is not going directly to the output. And then I have filter 1 engaged going to the pan, going through effects, and then I have filter 2 engaged going through pan, going through effects. And then they all are going to operator 2 to go to the output. So everything is running through operator 2. And then I have mode X and Y all the way down here. So this was a preset called Double Star. I think this was a default preset from all the citrus presets here, but I don't know how much I did to change to it. So you can look it up if you wanted it. It's Double Star, or you can just recreate everything I showed you. And I put the pan a little bit to the right because I didn't want this to be super centered. I want it panned off a little bit. So I put the pads on track 14, where I have a patcher running an EQ. And this is what I did for the EQ on the pads. So if you are into EQ and sound design like I am, you probably are a little confused at this. So yes, I did take out all the highs and mids. So this is what it would sound like if they were all up here, like how it should be. Let me just balance all these out. It would sound a little more like this. And I really didn't want that. That was just way too high of a frequency. I thought it really messed up the pad, so I took all that out. Actually, I think this might have been up like this a little more. And I got this. So I like that a lot more. And that's what I ended up using for the track. And then I have an ARP playing here. And this is what the pattern of the ARP is. So this was also in citrus. This was acid 8, which is just like this. I didn't make any changes to it, so if you were wanted to see how this was made, it's just acid 8. It's just the preset right here, acid 8. So it's really easy to find. But what I did on the mixer track was I ran an EQ. I took out some mids, when the mids were in there, I thought it just sounded way too full. So I wanted to take out some of the mids there. As well as I turned it down a little bit because it's not the main lead, so I don't want it taking up too much space. And then I have a snare fading in, so that's playing this pattern. Just as it's fading in. And then I bring in some noise coming in. The noise I made in GMS. Oh, wait. There it is, okay. So the noise is just the default GMS preset, just with the noise from 0 to 100%. And then you just mess with the cutoff for fading it in and out. For the mixer track, you don't really have to do anything. I just turned it down a little bit to compress it because it was getting really loud. So then I just faded it in and out, and that's what gave it this noise effect. So in the verse here, I have the chords playing double here on the pads. I copied it to the octave above it, so it's playing 2 octaves at once with the same exact pattern. So that made it sound a lot more full, the same synth and everything. Then the ARP is playing the same pattern. I have a drum loop going. So for the kick drum, it's just a pretty basic kick sample. And I put it on track 1, where I didn't do anything to it, I just mapped it to a track. And then on the hi-hat here, I have some reverb I put onto the hi-hat, just a very little bit, really just to turn up the dry, as well as it got it sounding a little bit wider. I turned the volume down a lot on the hi-hat, because I didn't want that to be too loud. And then I have the snare, which I put onto track 5, where I put some reverb, and I have the volume all the way up on that snare, because the sample was a little bit quieter. So that's the pads, the ARP. I have crashes. It's just a broken crash. That's from the drum samples. That would be packs, drums, cymbals, broken crash. I just compressed it a little bit. And then there's the lead here. This is what actually fades in as the lead here. So put the plucks all the way down. So this one is kind of an interesting preset, or it's not a preset, I made this synth, so it's an interesting synth, but I made it a preset because I saved it to my own library. But, let's see, the first thing I used was a filter 1 frequency. So this was in an envelope, and this is what it's doing. So this is volume. The volume is going from high to low from high to 0, so that's what's giving it this effect where it's kind of cutting out a little bit. It would be known as transposal is an effect that does the same thing, but I just basically did the same thing with this volume. That's really what transposal is it's just cutting out volume, which is the same thing I'm doing here. So that's what I did there, and then I have a harmonizing clipping threshold. So this is the harmonic clipping threshold, which, yeah, that's just exactly what it says. So this would just be where the harmonics clip. So basically, it would be messing with the harmonies, which I have here, all enabled. So it'd be fading in and out of harmonies. You can tell that in here is decreasing sometimes. So that's what it's doing here. Without this, it would just be like this. So it cuts out the harmonies, and since the harmonies are fully enabled, that does some volume as well. And then I have an image format mutation. This would basically just be messing with some of the harmonics of the sound. and then I have a harmonizer distribution. This would be how the harmonies are distributed on the sound. So this shape is basically how the harmonies are running through the synth. And that's all I did in here. I turned it up to 2 voices unison, and the harmonies I put all the way up. And I messed with the pluck for different points of the song. And that's all I did inside of the harmor. Pretty simple. And then I brought it onto track 9 where I ran it through a patcher. And it has some EQ. I put on boosting, some highs, lows. I put it through an effector modulator where it has reverb. And then some chorus. And without the chorus, it's like this. But when it's like this, that's just really annoying. So I didn't want it to be annoying, so I thought putting some chorus would dampen it and give it an interesting feel. So I did that. And then this is the pattern it's running again. So that's the lead there, and then I have a bass line. So I used this plugin. What's this plugin called? It's like Fruity DX10. Yeah, Fruity DX10 right here. Fruity DX10 FM synth. So this one, it's basically like a Citrus, but not as good. So this is, I very rarely use this plugin, but I just used it to get some bass. So for the first, this would be like the first operator, second operator, and third operator, kind of how it works. So modulator 1 and 2. So I just use this first altitude, and I put up the attack right here all the way down. So it starts out high and then fades. And I put this on to track 11, where I have an EQ boosting some lows, and then a wave shaper. And then that's playing this pattern at a much lower note, 2 octaves down. So it's just a pretty simple bass line. Like, to make bass lines like this, you don't need a super high-end plugin. You could just use something like Fruity DX10. That's what I did. So then I go back to the intro, where I have a kick, and I have this lead playing in at 0 pluck. So you probably couldn't hear this playing in on the verse or the re-intro, but it is. And then I fade in the snare again, back to the second verse. So that's it for this re-intro. It's really the same thing playing, just the kick, and then I have the lead going through it for some simple progression. And then for this verse here, I made the bass line a little bit more active here, playing this. Same exact synth. And then the lead fades in sooner. As well as, for the second time, the verse is actually longer than it was the first time. The first time, it's 4 bars. The second time, it's 6 bars. So it gets longer. And then it's playing the same drum beat. Just like this. Everything else is the same, just it lasts longer. For the last time that it plays, I add an extra kick and a clap. And everything is kind of at its peak right here, and I have noise running through. The ARP, I actually recopy the ARP 3 times at different octaves to make it sound more full. So it makes it sound a little bit more full. It really just gets louder, that's all it does. So that's what I have going for the lead here. Or no, not just for the lead, for the whole verse. And then I kind of do like a breakdown kind of thing here, but that's what I called it. Where I go into the claps, where I just do the pads, and I have the bass line going again. I start fading in an arc. Then I go back to the verse. And right before the verse hits, I put 2 kicks right here to kind of bring it in a little bit better. I thought it sounded better with the kicks there. And then it's really the same thing here as it was in the second verse, except it's even longer now. Instead of being 6 measures, it is now 8 measures. So the final verse is doubled from the first verse. So that's just something I kind of thought would be interesting to do with the song, just to have one part just keep getting longer. So the last one is 8 measures, the second one is 6 measures, and the first one is 4 measures. And then another thing for this last one, the lead's at its entire peak the whole time, and then I fade it out with a master volume. So that is it for Trance. The drum beat's the same. So that's it for Trance, and really it is a really simple song. And this was actually my most popular song on Spotify for about a solid week or 2 weeks. So yeah, so simple is pretty good. And subscribe for more weekly videos, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.